Okay, so I think I am safe in saying the 15th is coming around. February 15th is coming around. And so there's things I hold about the 15th that I hold very much close to me. I think that that's very clear. Um, and so putting this into a standpoint of me sounding furious doesn't really benefit anybody. And it being Black History Month, as it is, um, February 10th means so much to me. It's only these two names. Um, Sierra and Junior. Well, Sierra Prince and Junior. Well, Prince Junior. Well, the names weren't. Uh, they were unique. I think they were unique in a way that they were. I think. Um, I sit here, right? I sit here and look at the things that parents have went through. Because in myself, I think I was going to be one, or I was in that phase of my mind where I thought, at some point I was going to be one. In February, the 15th was the actual day that they were going to be um, here. And so I say all of this to say that my music taste has changed since 3 years ago because of the situation that was going to happen in a couple days today. But I am recording this weeks ahead of time, so the 15th is when I'm probably going to release this. And so there's there's some unique understanding to me. Well, you shouldn't release it and you shouldn't release your pain, right? But I think this is the thing. If I'm going to be vulnerable and comparable to you, the listener, I have to be honest with myself. And so, with me being honest to myself, there are things that I have to admit that I kind of feel sad about. And this goes on with culture and this goes along with a lot of different things. I think because of what happened, right? So, I won't explain in the detail what really happened. This is just my way of honoring it this year and honoring it somewhere else because I won't be in a place to honor it this year on that date, right? So, this is me talking. This might be a longer and shorter episode than many will assume, and many will say you are doing this for money purposes. Now, I'm doing this because this is a year that I feel that I can talk about it and not have to worry about breaking down, crying, or feeling some kind of way about it. And I probably will. I will probably let this episode play for a few people before I drop it. And this episode may not sound as scripted or written down as much as possible, and it's not. It's gonna be it's gonna be a lot of different places for a lot of different reasons. Um, and this is just my huge disclaimer that this probably will be the only time you will hear me talk about music in a way in which um, it will be sad. It genuinely will be sad, right? But this is kind of my way of expressing myself through the years of me just kind of not talking to it about anybody, right? So this is my thing. While there may not be any sponsors, there may not be any edits, I'm not sure how this is gonna work out, right? But this is me kind of telling my story of why I relate to certain artists in certain ways and why I am kind of making this episode. I think, and this is the thing, and people will say that I'm doing all of this for a purpose of releasing an episode. I don't know. So my plan for this, and if this doesn't get any plays, that's fine. It's kind of me listening to myself days before the 15th, on the 15th, talking to myself about the 15th. And so I hold February 15th very close to me on the hoodie. On the hoodie I have from a team that I would love to make a hat to love to make a thing. I have the 9215, which in actual sense is 9/29, 9 February 15th, right? So there's a lot of things I think that I'm not gonna disclose for multiple reasons, and one being a lawsuit. But I think there are things that I've never really talked about as it relates to the 15th. I think me being vulnerable about it, I haven't really talked to anybody about it, so this will be my first time talking about it kind of in a longer length of an episode. But this would kind of be my first reason on why this podcast was started. So basically, in 2020, something happened to me, and I had been debating on why I create a podcast. I had been debating on how to get myself to listen to different music and how to expand my reach and just have a platform to rant to myself that I thought music that would be beneficial. So that came in many different ways. That came to me in many different ways, and it's a sad thing, right? Because I'm looking back, I'm looking forward to the 15th, right? I'm looking forward until the date of February 15th, and I think to myself, would I have been prepared, right? Would I have been prepared for the Elijah, um, the gentleman that was shot because he was playing rap music? And I wondered to myself, how would I have handled that, right? Because there are things as parents that people don't really think about until they're parents, right? And to some extent, and my heart goes out to every single one I'm about to name. And my voice is gonna sound a little bit aggravated because it's sad in a culture, especially around music that has been from jazz that's supposed to be emotional, and it kind of kills me, right? Because while hip hop, we can argue Reagan's point of Reagan being gangster rap is bad, but rap is itself has been a movement in between the African American community, right? So it's kind of sad for me to sit here a couple days before it and rant to myself that I've lived through the Elijah Elijah. He was shot for listening to rap music because someone feared that he was listening to rap music, right? And that in itself irritates me. And I think we could I could break that down why music shouldn't dictate how you feel about a person and skin color, and I could break this down for probably the next hour of why this makes me frustrated, and I probably rightfully so could have, right? I probably could and I probably should, but it's not about that, right? It's about me almost becoming, or I guess I don't know. There were certain things that I was dealing with leading up to February 15th. I still have it in my phone. It's two different holidays, right? For me, but it's a sad, but it's also a good holiday, right? Because it opened my eyes to so much. It opened my eyes to country music. It opened my eyes more to pop music. It opened me. It made me listen to jazz more because I was upset. I truly was. I was. If you think I'm worse right now, I was worse 2 3 years back. I was terrible. Um, for many different reasons, I was upset at the world. I was upset at myself. And I'm listening back to this track that I recorded a while back, and I've heard it in its entirety, and I sound grumpy, man. I sound like I am mad at the world, right? And at that time, I said I was going to release an album. I didn't release it. I'm not releasing it. Um, but it does make me upset. And I'll say this, and I'll get into other situations, right? But this Elijah situation is this Tamir Rice situation. So I was doing something for class. I was doing something for a class, and I was listening to Tamir Rice's mother. And this is no criticism, right? This is no criticism towards her or anybody, right? But I can't feel but sad for Tamir Rice. I can't feel bad. I feel bad, right? Because there are situations where don't worry, that's a text message I got, and I am, I'm upset about that, and it's sad. It's sad because when I got the news of Tamir Rice's situation, it made me think of a J. Cole reference or a song called "For Your Eyes Only," and it's sad because you know Every 15th, that's what I think about. I think about the situation where he was holding a fake gun and they shot him. And that bothers me. That truly does bother me, right? Because it's because it bothers me, right? Because we could argue that it's a Nerf gun, but it's still a child. It was a child that lost his life for such a situation he probably shouldn't have lost his life for, right? And so, if I sound a bit aggressive, I am sorry. But it's sad to 3 years later come down the road and know what I'm dealing with as a male, um, and worrying, right? And rightfully so, worrying if I was to bring my kids into this crazy world, right? I'm not getting into the whole thing of gender because if my kids, I would love them forever no matter what. But I wonder, right? I do wonder, could I have handled that? And I don't think I could. So kudos to his mother. But I don't think I could. I think that would draw an emotion that I cannot explain to you right now because I am 3 or 4 years removed from it, but I was irritated when that news came out, right? I was upset, I was angry, I was mad at the world. Like there were situations where I don't understand. And I get it. It's proactive policing. So you don't have to be reactive. And I get that, but it's still it's a child. Like I always think when I think of Sierra, think of Junior, I always come to the same situation of if that was Junior, if that was Sierra in that situation, playing with a Nerf gun. And to know they would get shot by officers. I don't know truly how I would handle that. I think there would be I don't know. I don't know. I genuinely I don't know if I can tell you if I can handle it. Right? But those are the risks that I know come with the world, right? So you hear me ranting to myself and I know you're like, well, you're 3 years removed from, but you still seem angry. Because is it a social issue or is it a political issue? Now, I don't care for political. I don't. I think, everyone should have um the right to live their life any way they want to live it. So politically, I don't care. But it does concern me that, those kids could have been my kids, right? That could have been me, right? And then there would have to be a song that would be like For Your Eyes Only, which breaks them down because they have to listen to me giving them a story that I was not prepared to give them, right? So it seems rushed and it seems panicked and it seems out of order. And it bothers me, right? It deeply bothers me that that's how Tamir Rice will be remembered. Well, because I haven't forgot about him. So, the Elijah guy, I didn't forget about him either. He was 17, about to turn 18 in a few weeks before he got shot. But on this 15th, right, this is the thing. On the 15th, there are a lot of things that go through my mind. There are situations that there are certain situations in which I'm like, I can't hold my tongue because if I was, I wouldn't be doing anybody any justice. But I wouldn't be doing myself any justice either because For Your Eyes Only by J. Cole on his 2016 album is what I constantly go back to. Right? Because it's a different kind of J. Cole, but it is a J. Cole where you're like, we know the causes and effects of this. How are we going to stop it? And that brings me to another song by J. Cole. It's High for Hours. And I think this is, problematic, I think. But he says to the president at the time, he goes, in a conversation he had with the president, now this, I don't know the full instant on what it was, but it's just, he talked to the president and they just said, what can we do to change it? And they, politics is the problem. I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm just here to talk on a personal level about an experience that I just think over time something should have changed. And so I was reading Baldwin. I was reading James Baldwin's or listening to one of his speeches, and he's quoted by saying, "Is 400 years enough?" And what he's talking about, what he's genuinely talking about in his speech, is 400 years not enough? Is 4,000 years not enough to own to? Is 400 years not enough to be considered American, and so, or own titles to a land in which it was ruled taken from us, and he goes on about this. But that point that sticks out to me is 400. It's 400 years. We've changed policing in different ways, right? But we don't seem to have an issue. We seem to not be able to fix an issue, right? We seem not to fix a issue that's a hole somewhere. And as I said, I'm not getting political. I don't care who fixes it. I could care less. But there seems to be an issue with policing. Do we get back to community policing, right? And we get people that's in the community that actually become police, and people will argue that, well, if the people in the community don't want to be police officers, then we have to rely on outside sources. And I get that. I do. I do, right? I do. But there are things that I quite do not understand, right? And this isn't only going for like police and the African American community. That's not that either. I think the guy that got beat up by the police officers, that's a sad situation. And while I do feel extremely bad that happened and he had to deal with the cops that way, it hurts me because going into the 15th, I worry about kids. Like going into the 15th, I worry about myself, and I worry about goals that are set in life and the future of them goals. But the 15th haunts me because how would I feel? And this isn't to cause trauma to any other victims, but it's the truth. It's the truth to me. How do I feel? How would I feel if my kids had made it all the way to college? Then I got to Virginia Tech, and it was a Virginia Tech shooting. I'd feel kind of sad. I kind of feel depressed. Psychologically, if you want to say there's no depression, then there's a DSM-5 that says depression is on the scale and they have symptoms and PTSD. Right? There would be a problem. Like I don't know how one says. And this isn't even about gun legislation. I don't care. Look, I just want to say for community for all. That's simply my tagline. I don't care what party does it. I don't care who comes up with the bill. I don't care what's in the bill, right? But I do want people to feel safer. If that seems like a far thing, and I do, I keep saying I don't care what political party, because I don't. I genuinely do not care. I just feel that in order to build a safer community, we have to be able to not worry about kids being shot at elementary school, not being shot at high school, and there's measures to it, and there's reasons why we don't do it. But I do think 3 years down the road, and there was a school shooting, right? There was a teacher being shot. There are situations to me that if you were to ask me, right, and the fact that I didn't see some of these before it, right, I was mad at the world. I was truly mad at the world. I was mad at myself because I thought, being a father or a father figure was something that I was ready for, man. And I keep sitting here thinking to myself, like, the money doesn't matter. The overall purpose does not matter if we can't find a way to make people feel happier. Right? And to some extent, I've cooled off a little bit. I've cooled off thinking, you can't change the world. But logically, if we would want to make a safer place for the world, we should do it and not worry about political party. I don't think we care, right? But there are situations where the company line is what we should care about. I don't think we should care about the company line. I think we should care more about the children. And that's not even about the gender situation at all. Right? I don't care about that gender situation at all. I'll respect you, you respect me, I don't care. I don't care what you identify as. I will respectfully call you whatever you want to identify as. And if I lose some viewers because of that phrase, that's fine. I don't care. Right? But there are issues when it's almost the 15th and I'm wondering to myself, is it worth it? Because it makes me emotional to think, they could be born in a hospital, no matter what religion, or be born at home, and then a few years later end up being in a mass shooting situation. And I'm not calling for no reform. I just believe that things need to change. Because in my mind, I was furious years ago because I believed that I was ready for Sierra and Prince, and to some extent, I think I still am. Right, and that could be a bit of my ego, and I could be a bit biased. But I don't know. I don't know how y'all do it. I don't know how you become a parent and you lose them because of a mass shooting, and you're able to go on with your day. Because this situation happened 3 years ago. I'm not giving out the year. 3, 4 years ago. They would have been 3 this year. Going on 4. 3, going on 2, going on 3, or 4. And for the most part, when I first got the news, February 15th, I was buying birthday candles for the months after they were born. Because I was so upset. The day they would have been born, I was so upset. Right? I was so upset. And I was like, well, that means my world's going to end and blah, blah, blah. I was so upset, man. I was furious. I was so upset, man. I remember I was in a grocery store a couple weeks ago, and the kid was just wanting simple things, and the parents couldn't do it. And I just like, if I find him at the register, God, I'm going to pay for whatever that child wants. Now, they're I didn't see them at the counter, but you know, Lord, there are things I want to give back to. I feel that losing them makes me a better person. Sort of. I think every year I try to mourn their deaths. I do every year. I try to. And for the most years I've been successful. I've been able to go um, where I go to mourn them. This year I won't be able to because of a situation, and that's fine. I think um, there are reasons. There are reasons and causes for different reasons, and things happen. So me not being able to do it this year, that's not a biggie. I'm gonna do it this way though. I'm gonna bring it to the air and talk about it. Now, what that does for me, I'm not sure. What that will do emotionally to me, I'm not sure, right? Will I cry and break down? I probably will in class. I don't know what to tell you. I probably will break down. I probably will break down, and for years people don't know why I always go break down and disappear on the 15th. People probably don't have the slightest clue. People probably are like, well, he's just gonna be himself. He's gonna disappear. Well, if they hear this episode, they're like, well, that's not why he disappears. He goes to mourn them or grieve them. And to mourn a lot of different things that I think if we were to go into conversations, people would be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you grieve them for so long? Because that's my process. And people will say, well, you didn't bring up Trayvon Martin. Yeah, because that could have been me. And that's depressing to me because I I always listen to this song, and I'm not sure why. I think it's either because I know it's gonna break me down, or It's genuinely how I'm feeling at the time. And it's the truth. It's Sam's Cook. Things are going to change. And we're 3-4 decades in before this song. And we're still worried about the effect on kids, man. And it bothers me, right? Because this is like one of the... And I told you this is going to be one of these longer episodes. But I worry, man. I do. Because it's... I do. I'm worried. I don't know what to tell you. I do. I worry because it could have been them. 3 years after they were born. Pre-K, daycare. You don't know. Right? And so, this isn't me trying to put people and say, hey, don't have kids, go completely against them. But it's oh man, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I don't know what's going to happen 2 weeks before the date. So if it's more, it's going to be added after this, right? It's going to be added after this, and it's going to be even a longer episode, right? Because I'm not cutting it. I'm not cutting anything from this episode. Solely because I feel terrible. Because while Sam Cooke's original song is Things Are Gonna Change was a movement for the society as a whole and move forward and be more accepting, I really don't know how much longer I can take, man. I don't, and I say that and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that in a way that, I don't know, I mean that in a way that if you're worried about freedom, and I don't mean the literal sense of freedom of speech, and I don't know. I worry about. There's so much stuff I worry about, and I don't know I don't know what clips are gonna be made from this, and I don't know the overall general conception of this before I release it, and I don't have the slightest clue how people are gonna take this. I do, however, I do hope for change. I do hope for change. I'm not sure if that means in the literal sense of people being able to listen to any music they want to listen to and not be feared by anybody. I'm not sure if that's what that means, right? I'm not sure if that means people being able to play, children being able to play in the streets with a fake gun and not having to worry to be shot, or, them going to school for an education and not worrying about, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Like, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna lose my children this day? And I think, there are supplements where people are like, well, you don't have to worry about that. Just think about the upsides. Again, I was almost a parent, and I can't genuinely think of the upsides. Solely because I had very few moments and memories with them, and I'm not even sure if they will live to see another day. And that's the biggest thing to me that I don't understand. And granted, everybody is somebody's kid, and I get that, but it's depressing. Every time I think about it, and every day we get closer to 50, the closer I get, and the more I worry about what's gonna happen. Right? Because I won't be in the traditional sense I am now on the 15th. I'll be in class. But will I hear about a shooting from a kid? Or will I hear a kid got kidnapped? I'm not even sure what I will hear on the 15th, right? And it bothers me for many reasons. I think you worry about what the outcome will be. But I solely just worry about somebody's sanity. I do. I don't know if that's the, oh, well, everything will get better mantra, but I worry. I truly worry, and I don't mean to upset anybody, right? But I need this to be known. And granted, when I listen to this, I'll probably listen to the whole minutes of it. If it becomes 30 or 40 minutes long, this will kind of be my longest episode, right? But in memory of Sierra and Prince, I think I had to make this. I had to speak about it because I'm not sure what anybody's going through. Somebody might be going through the same thing I'm going through. They might not speak about it. They might not be able to relate to it, but they they want to talk about it. And I don't quite blame them. This is a very sad. Oh, this is terrible. And I don't even know how this mic is gonna come and sound out. Really, I have no idea how any of this is. I did not plan this. I said I was gonna plan something to upload on the 15th and publish on the 15th. Will this be all of it? Because I think I'm looking at the time right now. It's 30 minutes in, and I apologize if you stick to the whole thing. But it's a sad thing to look at. It's sad to look at in a few years where they would be 2 or 3, or 3 or 4. I'm not sure. Would it be 3 really? Because it was, but how would I feel? How would I feel? And to answer that question, I still don't know. Later down the road, I still may not know. But it's something I have to go through, no matter what. It's something I still have to remember. Because if I don't, I feel selfish. If I don't physically open up about it, I feel stupid. I feel like I am doing a disservice. So you might hear me talk for 31 minutes and go, well, this doesn't sound right. Why is he just openly talking about this situation? I don't care what the accent is on this. I don't. But there are things that I think we need to discuss. Right? There are things that I am open to have an open conversation with on how we fix things. Where we don't have to worry about situations like this. Losing a child at 3. Or 4. Like, there are things I am so open to have this conversation about. There are. There are things I'm willing to have conversations about. There are things I'm willing to talk about. Right? Politically or not, I don't care. But I don't have a political one about. I don't care about I don't care about political nature or I don't care. I just genuinely feel that if they were here today, they'd be 3 or 4 years old. 3 or going on 4 or 2 going on 3. I genuinely do not care. What was the world I would bring them into? As I said, gender aside, because I know people are like, well, gender, do you care about? I don't. I love them either way. I don't care. I would love them any other way. I do not care. And I keep thinking about that X song where he says, where X goes, basically, what he basically says is, open your mind. If you don't have an open mind before you listen to this, you won't like it. And if you don't have an open mind to my interpretation, you're not going to like me. And to some extent, you're going to be like, well, he just could whine and complain for 33 minutes or maybe 40 minutes. So what? But it is an open conversation that I would love to have, an open dialogue, an open debate I would love to have, you know? But it is the reality that we get. As I told you, I'm recording this 1 or 2 weeks before the 15th. And I might record something the day of the 15th. Or the 14th and then put it on the 15th. But something's got to give. Because if it doesn't, we're in a situation where we're just pulling and tugging until something breaks. And we're already losing children to a mortality rate that I think is too high. Or death rate because of a tragic situation. I sound extremely angry right now, and I have mixed emotions. But it bothers me, right? Because if I have to worry about this and they're not here, I can only imagine what parents are dealing with. That have 3-year-olds, that have 2-year-olds, 2-month-year-olds, right? And I can only wonder what they're going through. And it's only half of what I'm going through. It's probably more of what I'm going through, and I'm only going through half of their pain. Or half of their worry. God, God, it sounds like I'm ranting for no reason, but I promise you it's for a reason. I promise you, if I don't finish it today, I'm going to finish it tomorrow. This episode is probably going to be 40 minutes long. And that's just a heads up. If you're 35 minutes in, you probably realize, yeah, this is probably a 40-minute episode. You'll see how long this episode is. I won't. I will not see how long this episode is until I finish posting it. It might be the traditional length of a podcast, and it genuinely might be an hour long. But that is upsetting to me. But for right now, I'm going to let you go, and this might be the end of the podcast. I'm not sure. And if it isn't, I'm going to record another ending. But right now, it's 35 minutes long. And this is just a based on scripted version of this. So can you imagine if I had scripted this? It'd be even longer. Well, with that being said, we will see if we continue. If we don't, thank you for listening to my rant. Tangent, even if that. But if we continue, you'll know it's a continuation. You'll know. Because I'll say part 2. The continuation. Man, this is depressing to even record a couple days before it. When I am furious, when I am upset, you know, mortality rate, I am sad about a lot of things. I have opinions on certain things that we could be on this for hours, and I could elaborate on half the stuff I want to elaborate on. But I don't want to keep you too long. I don't. I really don't want to keep you that long. But it's a sad thing to talk about to me, because it seems like it falls on deaf ears. Man. We'll see if it's a part 2. We'll see.